everyone. Welcome to this episode on Towards a National Policy on Open Educational Resources for Nigeria. My boss, the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, Professor Abubakar Rashid, MNI, MFR, FNAL, with the permission of the Minister, has set up the National Steering Committee on Open Educational Resources. And one of the tasks that that committee has taken on is to stimulate or work towards the development of this national policy on OER. I'm glad to let the world know, Nigerians know, that we have moved very far in the development of that document, and Professor Abubakar Rashid, thumbs up for you and all members of the National Steering Committee. So what we want to learn here, what we want to share with you this episode is about this wonderful document, National Policy on Open Educational Resources for Higher Education, that NUC has been able to develop under the leadership of Professor Abubakar Rashid, and which was presented at the second OER Congress in Slovenia, widely acclaimed. So alongside the ES, that's Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, also launched the Nigerian University System Open Educational Resources, NUSOER. That is running on the site, and you can see this is a flyer of the NUSOER that Professor Abubakar Rashid also launched. And in this episode, we'll be getting highlights of the national policy and the highlights of the National University System Open Educational Resources. We trust you will enjoy the episode and applaud the efforts of the National Steering Committee on OER under the convenership and chairmanship of the ES-NUC. Enjoy. Before we begin, let me draw your attention to the license of this video. It's written here, this work is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License, and it's a CC BY category. If you refer to an earlier video, you find that this means that you can use this video anyhow you want, make money out of it, and remix it, distribute it, but just ensure that it's attributed to the author. That's Peter Okebukola. So what's cooking in this session? Cooking means what are we going to be doing in this session? We are going to be looking at the need to have a national policy on OER. And then we're going to walk you through the process of how we developed the national policy on OER for higher education in Nigeria. And we are hoping it will be taken as a successful case study that other countries can adopt and adapt, learn from. We're going to now let you see the key elements of the national policy on OER. And last point that is cooking is the launch of the Nigerian University System Open Educational Resources, NUSOER. I like to see how I've pronounced that. I didn't say NUSOER. NUSOER, we hide the OER flavor. So we like to call it, we like to pronounce it NUSOER, Nigerian University System OER. So, when I was preparing this video earlier today, somebody saw policy and he thought it was police. Oh, talking about police, today went to a police station and was surprised to see a policeman reading a Bible. So he went to the policeman and asked him, "Who killed Abel?" And the policeman replied, "Oh, look over there. Ask Inspector Yakubu. He's in charge of murder cases." Right, but it's policy, not police. So let's jump into the first element there, the need for a national policy on OER. If you want to set a national framework for common practice, for development and for use of OER, you need a policy to be in place. You need a policy to document what the country has consensually adopted as the goals, objectives, infrastructure, capacity building, and all these things that are important for OER deployment and implementation. And then you need a policy to provide a national guidance on such important issues as quality assurance and also monitoring and evaluation. We're going on to the next thing, which is the process that we applied in the development of the national policy on OER for higher education. 7 steps in the process. 7. The first thing was the setting up of the National Steering Committee on OER. So as I gallop through these steps, any country that wishes to develop, a policy that has broad-based ownership may need to follow this sequence, maybe in the same form or in adapted form, or in the in the language of OER, remix them. So the other thing we did was the commissioning of a national study on OER. That is, before anything was in place, get to study to see where the nation is. Then the third thing was the drafting of the national OER policy. We got support from the Commonwealth of Learning. I would like to appreciate the Commonwealth of Learning. By the way, some other partners are hoping to collaborate with Nigeria to firm up the other components of the national policy, like UNESCO, for instance, and we're so delighted to have UNESCO join in the process. Then we had, as number 4, extensive multi-layer stakeholder consultations and reviews. I'll be expatiating on this during the course of this short video. Then we had revisions of the draft policy, and then we had an assemblage of higher education stakeholders for a validation workshop, and then the approval of the pre-NCE draft. What does NCE? NCE is the highest policy-making body in Nigeria. That's the National Council on Education. So that draft is ready to go to NCE for approval. So, first step, setting up of the National Steering Committee on OER. Now, this is a letter that was issued after approval by the Minister of the National Steering Committee on the 30th of May 2017. And this is the membership. I'm sure you cannot read this, but I provided it on this next screen. So we have as convener and chairman Professor Abubakar Rashid, MNI, MFR, FNAL, who is the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission. Now, I'd like to very quickly go through this so you can see the broad base of the participation in this steering committee. The Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education, the Director, Tertiary of the Federal Ministry of Education, the Executive Secretary of the National Board for Technical Education, covering the polytechnics, monotechnics, and associated institutions in Nigeria, the Executive Secretary of the National Commission for Colleges of Education, that's covering very important the teacher education, College of Education subsector, if you like. The Executive Secretary, National Teachers Institute, the Vice Chancellor, National Open University of Nigeria, the Secretary General of the Committee of Vice Chancellors, the Director of Research, Innovation and IT of NUC, Director of Open and Distance Education, NUC. Now, I've highlighted this distinguished person. That's Her Excellency Ambassador Miriam Y. Katagum, permanent delegate of Nigeria to UNESCO. We are very proud of her. She's doing Nigeria very, very proud in UNESCO, carrying a banner flying very high. And she had to come a number of times to the meetings in Nigeria of the National Steering Committee. We appreciate you, ma'am. Then this is Peter Okebukola, Professor Emeritus Olugbemire Jagede, former Vice Chancellor, now my good friend and brother. Dr. Jane Francis Agbu, who is an Associate Professor of Clinical Psychology and ICD Chair in OER of the National Open University of Nigeria. Professor Olu Obafemi, President, Nigeria Academy of Letters. Mr. Chris J. Mayaki, Directorate of the Executive Secretary's Office, AUC. Now, I've read this out to let other countries who want to adopt our model to see that the National Steering Committee should be broad-based. So, here are the people Let me now put the faces to the names. This Professor Michael Faborode, that is Secretary General of CVC. I'm not sure I can get this. This is Director of Open and Distance Learning, Dr. Additional here. Director of Research and Innovation of NUC, Dr. Suleiman Ramon Yusuf. This is Abdallah Damon Professor, distinguished, it's really top class, the Vice Chancellor, National Open University of Nigeria. And these are boss, the convener and chair, Professor Abubakar Rashid. You have the Excellency here, Miriam Katagu, the Nigeria's permanent delegate to UNESCO. This is Peter Okebukola here. This is Olujegede here. And this is Chris Mayaki here. This is a representative of MBT, and I think this is that of NCC. So the National Steering Committee was inaugurated 21st, as you can see here, of August, and that swung into action. Some close up. These are boss telling us that's Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission, laying down the ground rules and telling us what we must do to ensure that we deliver on the mandate that the minister has given. This Professor Luke Jagede here, you can see his wonderful regalia. This Chris Mayaki is member secretary. You can see he's taking notes there already. And this is Dr. Jane Abu, who is the consultant. So here we go. Now, Joseph Bisong wrote me an email. And what did he say? He said, may I respectfully and proudly applaud the efforts of my variable and dynamic Executive Secretary, Professor Abubakar Rashid, MNI OFR FNAL, for his mind-blowing vision for the university system. And of course, his director and member secretary, Chris Mayaki, for his systematic guidance and direction, which is assisting the ES to steer the OER ship in Nigeria in the right direction. Happy Independence. I sent this to me on the 1st of October, just a few days ago. Joseph, thank you very much. You are very right. I share your views. Now, the next step was to commission a national study on OER. That national study was carried out by Dr. Jane Francis Agbo on behalf of the Commonwealth of Learning and NUC, with input from Dr. Sanjaya Mishra. She gave us a report on the 21st of August, and that's Dr. Agbo there. So the main report has this table of contents, very rich report. I'm highly impressed with it. It has this cluster or this major heading, the status of higher education in Nigeria, with all of this, ICT in higher education institutions with all of this, and then overview of open educational resources, what they are and all of that. So that's the one. After we got the report, the process of development of the national policy on OER then kicked in, although they were running in parallel in terms of the drafting. So the draft was prepared on behalf of the Commonwealth of Learning by Dr. Jane Francis Agbo, I showed you earlier, with input from Dr. Sanjaya Mishra, Education Specialist, E-Learning, the Commonwealth of Learning. And then we began the first level review by the National Steering Committee. Now, it then went through extensive multi-layer stakeholder consultations and reviews, kept going, several iterations, going up and down. And I'm reminded of this, to be a man is not a day's job. To get quality draft national policy, it's not a day's job. It was really nice going, but kept going up and down like that. So we finally had a national validation symposium / workshop. You can see a subset of the participation. Here you have vice chancellors of Nigeria's 153 universities. Not only for 153 are here, but we have 153 universities in Nigeria. We have rectors of polytechnics. We have provosts of colleges of education. Every segment, every stakeholder within the higher education subsector is represented here. You have university librarians, directors of ICT from universities, polytechnics. So we had all of those here. This is another shot from another angle. Stakeholders from the entire subsector. And this is another angle, taking it from the back of the huge hall. And this is part of the platform. So what then happened after all the validation? The validator went through the the draft policy clause by clause. And you know where these professors are gathered, these vice chancellors. And grammar, they'll dot the I's and cross the T's and change this, change that. But we finally got this validated national policy. So what are the key provisions of the policy? Now, this is another major segment of this presentation. We have these as a table of contents, 11 sections, and the appendices with 2 speeches, one by the Minister of State for Education, who is indisposed at the moment, and we wish him well, speedy recovery, and then the convener and chair, the Executive Secretary of National Universities Commission. So that's what it is. Now, I want you, wherever you are, to download a copy of this, this policy. Have it and enjoy it. Those who are outside Nigeria or even within Nigeria and want to still look at it, you have an opportunity to do it. And you can get it from www.nusoer, that's Nigerian University System Open Educational Resources.org/policy/policy.pdf. So let me click on this and see what comes out. Okay, go ahead, man, and load it. Yeah, so that is the policy. So this is what you're going to get. So let's just run quickly through it. That's a preface that is provided by the Honorable Minister of Education. It has that's the table of contents we showed earlier, list of abbreviations, then the scope of the policy. That's section 1. This section 1 has 4 subsections, and then the goals of the policy. This policy shall provide a comprehensive framework for the use of OER, and it goes on 12 of them. And then pursuant to the goals, we have this. And then section 3 is on teaching and learning. The provisions of the policy for teaching, teachers, educators, learners, researchers are all here. 5 items. Capacity building. Capacity building is important. It ranked in several of the sessions at the second OER Congress in Slovenia. So we have a lot of provisions for capacity building. Then how do you develop OER materials? You also have them here. And then quality assurance, that's a major chamber of the heart of the matter. In the heart, the left ventricle is the most muscular, the one that pumps blood all over the place. This is it, quality assurance. We don't want to pump in, materials that are compromised quality into repositories. So this is quite important. We have several, 3, heavy provisions for that. Then infrastructure and connectivity, section 8, implementation strategy, is number 9, institutional arrangements, number 10, intellectual property rights and licenses. So talking about these licenses, and then scope, liability, and disclaimer makes up the 11th section. And of course, you then have the members of the National Steering Committee and the appendices. So the first one is the address of the Honorable Minister of State at the validation symposium, and then the other is that of the Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission. So that is the policy I entreat you to download and use as well as you want. So let's now go to the other segment, which is at the introductory. During the introduction, I showed you the policy, which I've done with, and now the National University System Open Educational Resources, NUSOER. So if you went to the website of NUC, where it's hosted, you are going to find this nice logo there. So just click on it, and then it will run, and you will see how it is. Let me even get to the NUC site, and you see how this goes. Yeah, so this is the NUC site, and then look at our boss there, who launched the thing. So let's click on it and see how that goes. It takes us to NUS, Nigerian University System Open Educational Resources. Yeah, so this is it. This is it. So you can browse the repository by institution, and you can see our universities. You click on it; it's going to give you all the materials. And you can also browse by discipline. So enjoy this. We're developing it. It's still ongoing, and And go to start some ranking of the universities in a little while. You can actually also get the draft policy from here. All right. Yeah, so as we mentioned, it's nusoer.org. Now, this is a repository that's proudly developed, managed, and maintained by the National Universities Commission. And we're aspiring to be the largest repository of open educational resources in Africa in another 3 years. We'll achieve it much earlier. So what are the goals of the NUSOER? These are the goals. Serve as a comprehensive repository of OER held by all universities in Nigeria, enhance access to and create qualitative, that's important, educational resources that support quality teaching and learning in Nigerian universities and all the other things that you can see here. Now, what are the current features? If you go to our site, you are now going to see there's a gateway to OER held by 153 universities and authored and developed by Nigerian scholars. We have more than 3 million OER in the form of courseware, lecture notes, textbooks, videos, maps, podcasts, conference presentations, journal articles, and all of that. Now, this video is also one. We just added this one to that repository today. It has user-friendly online search facility and is compliant with all devices and platforms. Your small mobile phone, your big one, your tablet, your whatever iPad, very compliant. And it contains rare and priceless OER, uniquely Nigerian, uniquely African. So we have some testimonials, on these efforts, the two efforts, the national policy and the open educational resources from the Commonwealth of Learning. Let me take you to the Commonwealth of Learning site and we'll see what the testimonial is about. So this is the site of the Commonwealth of Learning. CORE congratulates Nigeria on validation of national policy on OER. So I'll just quickly run through this. The Commonwealth of Learning's president and CEO, Professor Asha Kanwar, congratulates Nigeria on the adoption of CORE-supported national policy on open educational resources. The pioneering policy was validated at the Stakeholders Validation Symposium at the National Universities Commission and be sent to Nigeria's National Council on Education for approval. Professor Kanwar said, OER has tremendous potential for reducing the costs and improving the quality of education. I congratulate Nigeria for developing a national policy in record time. This will have implications for millions of students and a positive impact on the quality of education in the country. So it goes on like that. The National Universities Commission also recently launched the Nigerian University System Open Educational Resource. It was launched on the 12th of in August, on the 21st of August, by the Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission, Professor Abubakar Rashid. A repository for all OER held by Nigeria's 123 universities. It contains over 2 million OER, including those that are unique to Nigeria and Africa. So that's a good testimonial. Now, before I go, let me thank the Executive Secretary, NUC, for this initiative, and to thank Director Chris Mayaki for the superlative presentation at the Second World OER Congress in Slovenia. I didn't go to Slovenia, but it was carried on Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, all the networks. By the way, I'm joking. But what we got as feedback is that the applause that Chris Mayaki received, it was stunning. It did very well. And we'd like to thank the National Steering Committee and all the stakeholders who have been part of this very successful journey. Let me go back to Chris Mayaki. Let's get a clip from his outing in Slovenia. Chris?
As soon as we got back to Nigeria, one of the regulatory agencies, the NUC, spearheaded what we call today the National Draft Policy on OER. So institutions across the board have a responsibility to play. Institutions should also pool and share resources in order to develop OER. This underpins the multi-stakeholder nature of OER. It's not something that one institution alone can achieve.
That's correct.
We need to encourage capacity building and mount training programs on copyright and OER on a regular basis.
Yes.
For us, we're very practices in the development and sharing and reuse of OER. How else can you motivate people if you don't reward best practices and outstanding performances?
So, Director Chris, thank you very much. You've done us very proud. We're also clapping for you here. Up, Chris. Chris forever. Now, that brings us to the end of this episode. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email or put a call through to that number or send me a text, and I'll be very glad to respond. Thank you once again for your attention, and see you next episode. Bye. From me, Peter Okebukola.